and then we'll be on. Oh, now we're live. So
right,
we're going to skip the countdown ticker.
It's okay. Well, that's the good thing about this. I figured, having someone like Brenda here was really, really great because she's been through this before. And I think I was kind of a little bit wondering about this, but I am so happy to be here with my first LinkedIn Live, take two. And it's so much fun to be here. This is something that has been really outside my comfort zone for a little bit to be on here, but I wanted to give it a go because if I could do it, anyone could do it. Here with my cup of coffee, and this is just such a great conversation. I first met, quote unquote, met Brenda last year on LinkedIn and admired what she did, and I looked forward to the possibility of someday connecting with her. That would have been so great. And she actually accepted my connection request, which I was shocked about at the time. And then we just kind of just followed each other. And so I'm really happy to have Brenda with my first LinkedIn Live guest. And we were actually talking right before about how to make this LinkedIn Live work, because we were going through a little bit of a take one before and just moving things around. And I'm still learning from the expert here. So what were some of the things that we talked about?
So this is your first time in StreamYard. So, one thing I told you is look at the camera. Like we're tempted to look down. Like right now I'm looking at you. We're tempted to do, because human beings, we want to look at human beings. But I told you, I said, make sure to look at the camera. And I always tap my camera when I tell people that, look at the camera. Like that's the camera. It looks like I'm looking at you, as opposed to when you look at the screen, which you want to do because you want to see my reactions and my hand gestures, But right now I see you've got 13 people watching, Kenneth. So another tip for you is when you first go live, tell people to leave a comment below so we know the live stream is working. That helps us. And also then we know who's watching, which helps you, because then you can see who are the people that are supporting. If you see a name that you want to say, hey, it's Andy Foote, or it's, Michelle, you can see.
Silly question, where would I put that?
So you can just say it out loud, but then also in your right side navigation in StreamYard, I got to pull mine up so I can tell you the instructions. There's a way that you can add in on screen, like where our names are below right now, where it says Kenneth and Brenda Meller, we can actually add like a message on screen. And I'm going to open mine up. So I'm not that much of an expert. Like I know where things are.
I got my son here.
Yeah. So in the side that says banners, so at the bottom where it says create a banner, click on create a banner and then type in a message, and the message might be comment below to let us know where you're watching from, or comment below to say good morning. So give people like instructions on what you want them to say in the comments. And that kind of just, I think people need to be told, like, what do you want us to do? We're here watching.
You scroll across bottom, so I'm going to do that there. So then it should probably end up coming underneath.
Yep, you can do that. You can have like the rolling ticker, or it can just be like a static message.
Okay, cool. So far so good. So how do we know how many people are actually here? You said there's 13 people.
Yeah, so this is my hack for this. Back in the day when I used to do this originally, I have it on my laptop and then I would pull it up on my phone. I have since invested into a second monitor. So I have this in a second monitor as well. So I have your LinkedIn activity feed pulled up in a second monitor. And I can see we went from 11, then it went to 16, now we're at 18. So we're gradually increasing the number of people. You can't, unfortunately, see it, I don't think, in StreamYard. I think you can only see it on LinkedIn. Can you see that now?
Well, I'm going to call up my phone in a second because I actually saw it was blocked out. StreamYard apparently doesn't let you do it. So I'm actually going to call my phone. So I'm looking down because I'm looking at my phone, guys. I'm not ignoring you guys.
But even like what you're doing right now, tell people what you're doing, why you're doing it, as you're doing it.
What I'm actually doing is I'm going to my LinkedIn profile on my phone, and I'm actually looking to see the comments that are there. Ideally, and I think it's a good point, it's actually to have a separate screen there. I'm a list for sure. So
now, can you see in StreamYard in the side, Kenneth? I did leave a comment, and you should be able to pull my comment up into StreamYard now.
When did you put it in? You put it in.
I left it on LinkedIn, but StreamYard should pull it up. So in the right,
we are live. So happy to be your first guest.
Yep. So click on that comment in StreamYard, and then it'll pull it up. There you go. See?
Hey. Having a lot of fun with this for sure. So I can see I can do that with other ones too. I can do that there and that there. Yeah, this is kind of really cool, actually.
Yeah, it's all like a learning experience, and it's I don't know if it's like riding a bike or how you would describe it, but you figure it out and then you'll know eventually where things are going. Hey, there's Brian watching. So now that we've told people leave a comment, I just refreshed my page. We're at 17 viewers and I see 16 comments there. So now we
Cool.
got some action going on here,
That's
right?
cool. I think I love Joey a lot. I think what's really going to be great about this is I'm going to be using this platform to do different types of events. And I remember when you and I spoke, and this is why I thought I wanted you to be my first guest. It's been a year since I did your LinkedIn Live, and I wanted you to be my first guest. And I think that's something that a lot of people really talk about is kind of reciprocation. I think that's so important, especially in what we do, recognizing that, because I'm very appreciative to everything you've done. And I've gotten a lot of people involved on LinkedIn too, which brings us to Clubhouse and LinkedIn, which we were having a discussion about. And I think it all goes down to time management. You can be on Clubhouse all day and you can be on LinkedIn all day. And it's really about setting what's realistic in terms of boundaries and time. And so how do you manage that? I know how I do, but I'd be curious to get another take on that.
It's funny because remember back in the day when you were like, Brenda, Clubhouse, you gotta get on Clubhouse. And I'm like, I heard rumblings. You weren't the first person, but you were persistent in your approach about this is something really awesome. You got to get on board with it. And you told me a little bit about it. And then you said, you're spending hours a day. I'm like, hours a day? How do you find more hours in the, like, I feel like I barely have enough time to do the things I'm doing. How am I going to find more hours to do things? And I'm like, no, Kenneth. And then I think one day, I don't remember who it was offhand. It was another LinkedIn rock star. It's a woman and I can't think of her name right now, but she said, hey, the people from LinkedIn are hosting a Clubhouse chat tonight. And I'm like, why would LinkedIn go on Clubhouse? Like the people that are employees of the leadership team at LinkedIn are going to be in Clubhouse. So I signed up because of that. Do you remember who that person was? Because I said Kenneth wanted me on, but I ended up signing up with that person.
I don't know who it was, but I'll tell you what was one of the funniest things about Clubhouse. Remember when LinkedIn went down and we all went up to Clubhouse.
Mm-hmm.
We were in a room, we're like, what's going on with LinkedIn? That's a spontaneous thing. And I had always thought about that. I think what I find most challenging about Clubhouse is just trying to stay on top of things as possible. But I think in general, something like this is extremely hard for me to do. And I think we've talked about that before. I mean, just go with it. But I'm one of those people, I gotta make sure everything's right. And I'm going to be my hardest critic on myself. And I guess that makes me, I don't know who I am, but it's just important to give it a shot. And I think I'm going to actually post what Mark Strano said here. You can't learn to swim by reading a book. I love how you jump in the deep end. Mm-hmm. For sure. And I think that's a great analogy.
No, very true. And you learn by doing, and it's even think about like interviewing. The first time you go on that job interview, after maybe you're in a job you don't like and you're starting to think about leaving that job and interviewing, it's very nerve-wracking going through that first interview. But by the time you're on your 12th interview, you're kind of like, I know what I'm doing. Now I'm more selective because I want to make sure I'm finding the right company. So you shift gears with your orientation towards the interview and your own comfort with it. You do things differently in your 12th interview than you do on your first interview, right?
Definitely. So I guess the burning question that we have on both coasts is how hot is it in Detroit? We know how hot it is in New York. It's about 100, could be about 100 degrees here today. So
it's actually, I have a little temperature thing on my laptop now. It says 75 degree Fahrenheit and clear. It's overcast and cloudy today, but we have had a couple days leading into this where it was like unbearably hot. And then we had thunderstorms. So of course you have like tornado warnings and watches and stuff like that going on. But, it's Michigan, similarly in Jersey and New York, you get swings in temperatures. You get it's too cold for this time of the year, followed by when will this heat break, followed by when will it stop raining? And then we go through the cycle all over again, But right now it's not, it's a good day to go for a walk, and I'll probably do that today.
I wish I could. But my broken toe will not allow me to do that, but that's okay.
Yeah.
So I love this comment by Pam. I pre-write my banner info, so I only have to turn it on when I want them.
Mm-hmm.
Sure. And I got to have a shout out here to Lori Walker, because Lori Walker actually did my Tuesday weekly LinkedIn Learn yesterday, and there was such great feedback from that. She's actually coming in from the coast, so she's in California.
Cool.
So it's really, really great. And I think one of the things I like to do with what I do is that I like to pay it forward. And I know it's so important, because unless you've gone down the journey and you don't pay it forward and give back, I don't feel you're being as genuine as you can be, whatever you do. Even if it's a simple answer to a question or something. And that's why I'm so appreciative for all the help I get with everything.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you'll get more out of LinkedIn if you shift into that type of a focus. If you're using LinkedIn selfishly, it's fine to use LinkedIn for your own purposes, whether it's finding a job, brand visibility, thought leadership, business development, lead generation. All those things are good, but you're actually going to find better results for any of those items if you are also focusing on paying it forward, participating in other people's conversations, commenting on their posts. When you join a LinkedIn Live, anytime you have the opportunity, a LinkedIn Live comes up, just go into comments real quick and just say, hi, joining from Metro Detroit. Just a quick little comment. And some people seeing you will click to go to your profile where they learn more about you. And it also helps the host. I can't tell you how many times, Kenneth, I've come into a LinkedIn Live just saying, hi, joining from Metro Detroit. And people are like, oh my God, Brenda's on. Or, oh, great, we have somebody watching. It just makes them happy, I
think also people should realize afterwards, that all these posts are going to be available. So if you don't really have time now to follow them, go back to the post. I know that you have, and so now you've all liked the posts after a while too. And I think that's something I definitely want to think about when this is over, because I think it's so important to thank people for coming here and appreciating them, because there's a lot of other things going on right now, for sure. And I have to give a shout out to all the people on my journey, because it's been very challenging at times to work with things here. And I think the most important thing we all talk about is we talk about how we can help and support each other. And speaking of which, got to welcome Lynn Williams, who's doing multiple things today. I've actually posted a couple of videos this week. Have not been easy. Going to get a little, but I figured if I don't do it, I'll start to do it better. And I think that's one of the things I want to bring out to everyone. Got to try something. If this doesn't work, and we all have things that go on, I won't say I'm going to jump out of a plane yet and go skydiving. I think that's a little bit above my pay grade, but you want to try things that you feel comfortable with. And you have to be afraid to even fail. If this doesn't work out, it's okay. You learn from it.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's, I think going through the experience, you won't know what will work and what won't work until you start trying it. And
I want you to promote your book and talk a little bit about that, because you actually have a Clubhouse room, I think, on Sunday where you read the book, because I think you wanted to go with the voice aspect. So I always wanted to write a book, but at the same time, I just didn't have the discipline to do that. So, how did you manage the time to write the book with everything else going on? It must have been challenging in a different way.
So I cloned myself. I have 3 versions of Brenda Mellers floating around, and no, I'm just kidding. Once you want to get something done, you will find the time to do it. For me, I'd been talking about it. And then I started telling people, when you see me, ask me how my book is coming. So I kind of start to build up this momentum, a little bit of a demand for it. And sometimes when you just say things out loud, the universe rewards you, and it brings people into your lives or situations where it helps you to fulfill that goal. So for me, I was telling enough people I want to write a book. And then I was asked to speak at a writers conference. I can't even remember, like 2.5 years ago. And I did a LinkedIn presentation, LinkedIn for Authors, at the writers conference. One of the people in the audience was a book writing coach. I talked to him afterwards, and I bought his book. It's How to Write a Book in 30 Days, Don Staley. And I'm like, I can't write it in 30 days, but you can. We all have 24 hours in a day, average month, 30 days. If you take an hour every day for 30 days, you can write a book. If you have the discipline. And for me, it was either staying up early in the morning, and sometimes it was the last thing I did before I went to bed. But it was also, Kenneth, I'm sure you have content you could pull from if you wanted to write a book.
Yeah,
blogs, posts.
I've thought about it, and I will eventually do it. My whole thing with your book is, you say social media pie, and my first thought was, and I think you talked about, is pizza versus real pie.
Yeah.
It's little things like that. That's now your brand. Your brand is
Yeah.
social media pie, and your brand is LinkedIn rock stars, and that's something that I will always know about you. And I think
Mhm.
it's so important for everyone to kind of build out that brand about themselves. And what I've learned from the experience is never to overthink things, which I have to stop doing. Just do stuff, and it's not always going to work. And I think LinkedIn for sure has its good and bad things, and there's things we can't control. And I'm looking kind of at the chat, seeing a lot of people I know that know me, which is helpful. So if I really don't do a great job, they're going to be kind. For
No,
sure.
they'll help you. I mean, I'll give you another tip right now too. You pulled up Lori's comment up on screen. As we're having this conversation, I see we're up to 21 viewers right now.
Uh-huh.
Add in other comments, and you don't need to comment on every person that you put up on screen, but it does help, if as long as they're relevant. I mean, sometimes I get the people saying, I'm on Fiverr, I can design my logo for you. Well, that's not really helping me or my community. It's helping that person on Fiverr. But I like to pull up different comments to keep them engaged and watching. And then it kind of is almost like the Good Morning America thing, where they're holding up a sign saying, "Hi, Mom, happy birthday," and you're like, "Oh, there's Susie holding up the sign," so that you get that a little bit of that 15 minutes of fame when you see your name being pulled up into the live stream. So that helps, right? That
Right.
helps you with engagement. Pam's going, "Oh my gosh, I'm up on screen right now."
Right. And I think what I'm trying to find is relevant comments that go along to what we're talking about, which I think what Pam had too. And I think for me, I love just jumping in and trying this stuff because it's helping me to understand how this works. And I think when I first got on LinkedIn many, many years ago, I was looking for a job and I just developed things to do. And I think my advice now to a lot of people is just to take chances on things because you just don't know. And I think for you, Brenda, in Michigan, we have never met.
Isn't that weird that we've never met? It feels like we're friends,
I've never met most of the people on Clubhouse. I've never met a lot of people, and I can't wait to do that someday. I mean, it's whenever it happens. But we've built such a great relationship, working relationship, just by having chats and being able to talk and not just rely on emails back and forth. And I think that was so important, especially during the pandemic, which is sort of winding down a little bit, but still, it's. So one thing that I was curious to get a sense of from you is we're going to be having a lot of networking events that are going to be in person now. They may be outside, they may be going inside.
Right.
Do you think people should have a comfort level about going back little by little, or do you see this type of networking being a part of what we're going to be doing? Because I actually created a poll about that. Would you like to see like a Zoom type interface as part of the in-person networking events, or should they be separate?
Yeah, it's interesting because we've all gone through this. I'm going to call this what it is. It's a traumatic experience. We've all gone through a very traumatic experience together. Some of us have been more impacted by the pandemic. We have lost a loved one, or we know someone who has lost their life, and other people have been, hospitalized and had some serious issues or side effects as a result of it, the long haulers and whatnot. And then others, we may have only been touched by it, or maybe it hasn't really graced us, but we've had to shelter in our homes and be worried about masks and germs and things like that. And, I've been reading a lot about different articles, but one thing they talk about is when you're in a traumatic situation, you can't really feel the full breadth of that trauma. When you start to come out of it, you can start to allow yourself to feel what you were experiencing. And I even think about if my kids are in danger, I'm not thinking about the emotional, psychological impact to me of that experience. I'm thinking about getting them out of that danger. Then afterwards, we can kind of reflect upon, and you can go, "Oh my gosh, I'm so glad that didn't happen." But then there's the longer term recovery from that traumatic experience. And we're all kind of coming out of this together, but it's not done either. I mean, let's just call it what it is, right? Where there's still, and who was talking to you yesterday? Michelle Raymond in Australia. I think they're going through lockdown again.
They are, yes. I think in them maybe too. And I sigh because what else can you do?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's, each of us are in different phases, but to your question, Kenneth, what about the in-person versus virtual networking? There's the personal component, do I feel safe part of it? There's the the emotional, psychological component of both the safety, but then it's also I'll just, we're both introverts, Kenneth. So I don't know about you, like being around people again is going to make me anxious, like in person. I was at a small family gathering over the past weekend, and we were all vaccinated with the exception of my 10-year-old daughter who can't yet. Mm-hmm. And there was 6 of us in a small kitchen at the time, and I started feeling claustrophobic, and I had to get out of the room.
How are you an introvert, Brenda? How are you an introvert? Because I mean, I know you and Mark are having a conversation, but everyone out there that doesn't know, how can she be an introvert?
An introvert is not a character flaw, nor is it a description about your comfort level with public speaking. Describing introvert is describing how I recharge myself, is really the way I look at it. So and Roy Sexton is a great guy to follow. He and I did a discussion about this a while back. He did talk about being an introvert, and I'm like, you're not an introvert. He's like, yes, I am. But he talked about when 2 introverts get together, like you and I, Kenneth, we play off of each other's energy. Mm-hmm. And we can still get together with extroverts, but their energy is much different. When you and I are done talking today on this LinkedIn Live, I will want to shut off my camera and not talk to anyone, maybe my kids, and that's about it. But I will recharge from being not around people. I will reflect upon the time that we had together. Mm-hmm. I'll rethink things. I'll think, well, I shouldn't have done that. I will do that. But we will recharge with quiet time. I will go out for a walk by myself with my headphones on and not talk to any human beings. Extroverts, in comparison, recharge by being around people. My daughter is an extrovert. When she's happy, she's like nonstop. She wants to talk to people. She wants to get out. She wants to do stuff. So, there's introverts out there right now watching this video that are scared to leave a comment. And I want to speak to them right now. Leave a comment. Yeah. Go ahead and say, I'm an introvert. Own your introvertness. Right?
Definitely. If you don't do it, believe me, you're not in this alone. And I always use that as an analogy. I have a picture of someone with a diving board in water, and I think it says, take the plunge, the water is fine. And that's the best way to it as an analogy. You dip your toe in first, and you put your legs in. This has all become easier for me over time. I know what works and what doesn't work, sort of. But I think what's important in general for everyone out there is just be comfortable in who you are and not try to be something you're not, because I think that's the hardest thing. I mean, I have to, in some personal situations, have to learn how to make small talk and do all that stuff like everyone else. And it doesn't come easily to me to do it. But as long as you're comfortable with who you are, there's really nothing to be ashamed of.
Yeah. And you can even use this platform too, Kenneth, to ask people for advice in your LinkedIn Live. Definitely. So people that are watching right now, if you are a supporter of Kenneth, tell him, is he doing a good job? And if there's a suggestion you have on something he should be considering doing differently in this LinkedIn Live, tell him that too. Yeah. Give him some feedback and help to guide them. And, one of the expressions I've heard is that a good friend will always tell you if you have spinach on your teeth, right?
Definitely.
And Kenneth, when you and I first came on, your camera was positioning you not like that, but it was a little bit off, right?
Right.
And I said, hey, Kenneth, you may want to angle to frame yourself, exactly center. And we even had a conversation about proximity to the camera. So if I was this far back and you were closer to the camera, it would make us look weird. But now you're kind of mirroring my distance. So it's making us feel like we're having a more equal conversation, right? So, and I'm helping you out, right? That's what I do.
And I think it's so important to have that support system with anything you do, for sure. I think one of the things I'm looking to do with these LinkedIn Lives for people that have just joined now is what you did, Brenda. And I don't know how you did all those events, one after the other every single day, or this and that, and all these different things. I mean, that's got to take a lot out of you. And I think that's really great. I'm going to be happy to do one a week. Just for now, but what I'll be looking at from the community is some feedback and some ideas, because I do have some ideas, but I want this to be a conversation that the community has, not just me. I don't want to be like stuffing stuff down people's throats.
Yeah. And when I first started my series of LinkedIn Live, it was, I got LinkedIn Live access and I was excited that I got it. So I hit the go live button without any prep. And then I was doing probably one or twice a month. And then the pandemic hit and everything kind of slowed down for me and my business. So I'm like, well, I'm just going to use this as a platform to help other people. And I started inviting one guest a day rather. So it was 5 lives a week. And I would handpick people that either I liked, people like you, or people that maybe I wanted to do a podcast. So I would invite people who had a podcast, and then I would have the conversation with them on a LinkedIn Live instead of just one-to-one. And I just did a private message in StreamYard to you here, Kenneth, too. Can you remove Pam's comment from on screen? And I'm sharing this with you because the friend with the spinach on the teeth analogy here. You're going to watch the playback later and go, why did I leave Pam's comment on there? So, and Pam, you're a lovely person. And
All right, so how am I removing it then?
So you're going to go into your right navigation, click on the comments, and you should be able to find that comment. And right now it's highlighted, so just deselect it. Or if you want, you can rotate through some of the other comments. But if you deselect it, then it would just put our names up on screen.
All right, so if I deselect it, if I select the hide.
Yeah, hide. There you go. So now it's just our names. So, use, like, for me, use me as your guinea pig, like test things out. And even here's another little trick I'm going to show you. If you click on the video pane in the bottom, you can actually, or my video pane, you can flip flop our position. So drag my video to the left of your screen. You can off. Now you move me off. Now you move me back on. So in the pane at the top, you can grab my video and move it to the other side, and then you can appear on the other side of the screen.
And I also see it says banned from studio, kick out from the studio. And that kind of makes me wonder, have you ever had to do that?
No, but I'm very selective about who I bring in to StreamYard. I think right now you can have up to 9 guests. So let's say you randomly put on LinkedIn right now, hey, who wants to join the StreamYard? And somebody messages you that you don't know. And you say, come on up. And then the person comes up and then they're wearing a t-shirt and they say, subscribe to public radio, NPR, and you're like, whoa, hello there, salesperson. And then you might want to kick them out, right?
Yeah, that's kind of how
it's a t-shirt I wore, by the way.
Clubhouse is like that. You can kick people off the stage and all that from the room. But I agree, you want to be selective. I mean, I've developed, I want to think a pretty good network of people I know and trust, but at the same time, it's my brand like it's your brand. And you don't really want anything to impact that in a negative way. But as you said about friends, I want people to share feedback. Don't be afraid to tell me something if you're a true friend. I'm not going to take it personally. Or maybe I will to myself, but not to you. I don't know.
But you can also use this StreamYard selfishly, kind of, and selfishly, but also for your audience. So what I mean by that is, you bringing me on today is giving you somebody to talk to so that it doesn't feel quite as awkward for you. It's also helping your audience because we're kind of sharing tips along the way with this process. So be selective about who you bring on, and think about right now, who are the top people that you've seen doing LinkedIn Lives? Like if I were you, those would be the first 10 people. The people like Cher Jones and, others who've been doing this for a while, like, say, hey, I was doing a LinkedIn Live with Brenda. She mentioned your name. I've seen your show. I think you're amazing. I'm handpicking people as I launch my series. I'd love to have you on, and just for some really low-key banter about live streaming and using, these platforms. Would you be open to doing so? So handpick the people initially. Over time, you'll probably start to have people kind of that will say they'll invite themselves. It reminds me a little bit like when I was growing up, we'd had friends, and there was this one girl, I remember she would come over to our house and she would say, I'll eat this cookie if you want me to. And my mom would always give her the cookie, but it was kind of like awkward. It wasn't like we said, hey, Julie, would you like a cookie? I'll eat this cookie if you want me to. It's the same thing with your live. I think you want to be protective because you are establishing your brand, Kenneth, and you're kind of figuring out what's your story as it relates to LinkedIn Live as you're going through here, right?
Exactly. And the first thing I wanted to figure out is how often I wanted to do this. Because if you say every week and you miss a week, then it's like, well, when are you going to come back? And then the next thing is going to be, what are the topics going to be? But I wanted this to be a test just to see, get a sense, get my feet on the ground, so to speak, and get into having a conversation. And I think really, for me, the best part about this is actually when I watch the recording and see what I didn't do. I mean,
the playback, right?
feedback, yeah, because I think that's going to help me out as much as anything else. It's going to be like, why did I do this? Why did I do that? Why not look at the camera more like this and all that stuff?
So right now you're up to, I'm just doing a quick refresh. You're up to 26 viewers. And so it'll go up and down. And the 26 are the people that are watching this live. When you end the broadcast, LinkedIn will show you in the views how many views of the video have occurred. And that means, I think, 3 seconds or more, if I'm not mistaken. What I found is, like, usually when I end a live broadcast, it's between 100 to 200 views total. By the end of the day, it's like 600 to 800 or 1,000. So don't freak out when you get done and it only has 100 views, because you'll get a higher viewership, I've found, from the playbacks later on that day. And Kenneth, are you live streaming only on LinkedIn right now, or are you putting this on YouTube or Facebook or any other place?
It's on Facebook too.
Okay.
It's on the page on Facebook.
And are you using the paid version of StreamYard?
Yes.
Do you have a YouTube account?
I do.
Okay, so if I were you, I would put it on YouTube simultaneously as well, because one of the mistakes I made early on is after you're done with the StreamYard, you can pull down the MP4 and then upload it to YouTube. Right. YouTube's a video library. That's where everybody goes.
Yeah.
If you do the live stream on YouTube at the same time, then you're reducing some additional work that you have to do afterwards. And then you also have a YouTube link to share along with people, which you and I know. I mean, the LinkedIn Live navigation for watching the playback is kind of clunky. There's no other way to describe it. It's clunky, viewing the comments and all that. But having it on YouTube will save you a step in that process. But when you're done with the StreamYard, you will be able to go back and pull down the MP4 and upload it. I just like to save myself a step in that process.
So let me ask you this. Does this become a post when the video is there? That's that way?
Yep, it is, but it's slightly different than other posts that you see in the timeline because of the comment feed. So if you shared the LinkedIn Live post link with me from LinkedIn, it would play it back and it loads one comment at a time. Mm-hmm. As opposed to if I go to the activity feed section of your profile and I click at the top where it says all activity, articles, post, document, if I click on post and watch it there, then I can load all of the comments and look at all the comments all at once. So right now you're at 10 reactions, 50 comments. I want to encourage everybody, give this video a reaction. That could be the thumbs up, it can be the applause, it can be the love, it can be the support. You can use I think Andy Foote calls it the crying baby. It's the purple guy who's like rubbing his chin. I don't know what the hell it is, but give it a reaction, because that'll help to kind of test this out for Kenneth too.
But I'm really happy. I appreciate your advice and your help. I think one of the challenges that I find with people that I work with is not knowing where to get started and being kind of stuck in that rut. And it's really hard for people to think about that. And sometimes you need a friend or a bunch of people that are willing to tell you this is not only not working, but why. And to some extent, I actually consider this a practice for an interview. Now, I'm not interviewing you per se, but I mean, just the idea of being in front of a screen for sure. I mean, we're having a conversation, and someday we'll get together and share best practices. Now, I got to ask you, how did the Rock Stars list even get started?
Oh, Rock Stars list. So back in the day, I don't know how I stumbled upon John Asperian. And if you're not already following John Asperian, I'm going to tag him in the comments right now. Like, stop what you're doing right now. Go to his profile and look him up. And I don't remember where I discovered him from, but I was watching, he was reporting on data and things like that. And I was like, wow, this is really amazing. And I said, how do you get this? And he said, I'm tracking it in an Excel spreadsheet. And I'm like, wow, that's really interesting. And at that point in time, I was starting to grow my LinkedIn presence, and I really wanted to step up my efforts. So I started kind of identifying people who were doing what I was doing, but they were maybe 3 to 5 or 10 years ahead of me. They've been doing this for a while. And I created an Excel spreadsheet with their links to make it easier to look them up. And I looked them up once a week. And then I was like, well, how do I rate myself against them? I'm gonna look up followers, because we can't see connections. We can only see connections up to 500, but followers, you can see everybody's follower count. So I started tracking it week over week to see how fast were they growing followers. And then I did a percentage increase calculation to see how was I tracking against them. So at the time, if I only had 5,000 followers and I was looking at somebody who had 50,000 followers, it's not really fair to assess side by side because of the numbers. But if they were growing at 2% pace in terms of followers and I was growing at 10%, I knew I was doing the right things. I was gaining more followers. And I was doing this list for probably about 6 months on my own. And then one day I'm like, I'm going to try a John Asperian. I'm making him a verb. I'm going to try a John Asperian technique and I'm going to post about this on LinkedIn and I'm going to share my data. And I did. And I tagged the people. And I think I had probably 40 people on the list at that point. And they were like, wow, this is amazing. How are you getting this data? And thank you for highlighting me. And, over time it evolved. I think I've got now 4 versions of the list. I try to publish it on the first Saturday, but to your point of scheduling, kind of like I'm not beating myself up if I have something going on that Saturday. I'll do it the next Saturday or the following Saturday. I do one list a month. But now it's not just the people who specialize in LinkedIn. It's also people who are non-LinkedIn trainers and coaches. Dan, what is his last name? I'm blanking right now.
Dan Roth.
Dan Roth, thank you. Dan Roth is just qualified for the non-LinkedIn trainer version of the list. You have to have a minimum of 5,000 followers. I no longer take self-nomination. Somebody has to nominate you unless I reach out. Unless I reach out and say, you're amazing, I want you on the list. But I don't. If you approach me and say, add me to your list, I remind you I don't do that. And I'll look at you, but I'll give you a hint. If you reach out to me and say, add me to your list, and you say it exactly that way, there's a good chance I'm not going to add you to the list because Rockstars and Jeff Young helped me to think about the acronym. It stands for an approach on LinkedIn. It's not just having a good follower count and posting a lot, but it's an orientation towards social media karma. It's helping others on the platform. It's being a good brand ambassador. There's so many things that are weaved into that. It's not self-serving to be on the list. This is a list that's published by me. Nobody is sponsoring it. LinkedIn is not endorsing it. It's something I'm doing for my own purposes. So I'm going to only add in people that I think I could learn from and that would benefit from a spotlight being shined on them. I have taken some people off the list because they've requested it. I've taken other people off the list because I don't feel they any longer epitomize what I think is a LinkedIn rock star, what I think is a LinkedIn rock star. This is my list, but yeah, that's kind of the history of it.
I mean, that's really great because I know John Asperian has the same thing. Like he has his Friday thing where he puts out a Friday person and promotes them, and you can't self-promote yourself there.
Right.
No way. It's a Friday shout out or something. But I think that's a very good point. I mean, we all do a certain amount of self-promotion. We all want to make sure we're in the best light, but it shouldn't be the first primary way to reach out to people. I mean, I think that you want to be genuine in everything you do, and you're one of the most genuine people that I have met virtually.
Mm-hmm.
Sure, and I think that's so important. I mean, my New Jersey tribe definitely. I haven't even met a lot of them. I mean, I know who they are. I can't wait. I think we're all going to go out one day and do something, whatever the something is. But these past times have taught us so much about what we can and can't do. And I know it's given me a greater appreciation for family and friends. It was the first time I hugged people I hadn't seen in a year. I was like, oh my God, it felt so good.
Yeah. And it's different. I feel like you and I feel like it's weird that we haven't met, like we've talked, we've supported each other. I mean, when you reached out to me and you said, I got live, can I be on your show? I'm like, absolutely, it'd be an honor to be on your, I mean, you've supported me so much. And you're such a good person too, Kenneth, in terms of you epitomize and you're on the rockstar list, right? I think you even, if I'm not mistaken, don't you have something on your profile in the header that says LinkedIn rockstar?
I might. I mean, I actually moved over to creator mode too. But I think it's so important. And again, I'm genuine in the sense that I will do whatever I can to help anyone else out. I think you mentioned the word to me is a collaboration or something like that, or whatever. Competition, which is a really interesting thing, but we all help each other out. It's almost like if you look at the analogy, top athletes help each other out, even if they're not on the same team, because it's for improvement of the greater good.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. There's somebody, I mean, I heard of co-opetition first from Terry Bean. Mm-hmm. He heard it from someone else, so he'll attribute the credit to that. But then there's also, I think Elisa Bennett was the person, she called it the restaurant row analogy. So when you think about when you go out to eat, sometimes there's like the strip mall with a bunch of restaurants that are located next to each other, or in a street corner by a mall or something where all the restaurants are near each other. And why do they do that? Because by being located in proximity to each other, they all benefit, because you know, if you go to this intersection, there's going to be all these great restaurants to choose from. So, you know, surrounding ourselves with our competition or with other people actually benefits all of us. And it goes back to, you know, an abundance mentality versus a scarcity mentality. I had someone who was on my my Friday VIP session last week, and I had some family things going on, so I was only in for a few minutes, and then she had to kind of run it along with some other folks from the group afterwards. And she does LinkedIn coaching and profiles and things like that. And afterwards, she had a job seeker reach out and asked to engage with her on working on their profile. And she said, you know, you invited me as your guest, you weren't on. Is it okay? And I'm like, totally okay. Abundance mentality. There's more than enough work to go around for all of us. They'll be, you know, if they're a part of my group, they'll be on the call. They can learn from me later and find my free resources or engage me if they wish to. But yeah, if they've reached out to you, I think it's great because they've seen your value. Definitely. And go for it. And I said, it's nice as a courtesy. You didn't need to reach out to me. But she and I are still kind of getting to know each other. I think it was out of respect for that. But yeah, I think, you know, you and I kind of, we've learned from each other. We have different perspectives on LinkedIn and on helping the job seeker community. Right. When I did a LinkedIn Live-a-thon a couple months ago, you did a panel discussion with Mark, and who was it? There's
Mark Strana, who's I think may still be on the call, and Marty Lappin. Yes.
And Marty. And it was a great discussion. We were talking about the experience rich crowd, right? Those people that are age 50 plus, and you know, how to deal with concerns of ageism in the job search process. And I'm like, let's flip it. Let's call this experience rich. Let's not call this mature candidates anymore, because you are experience rich. That should be an asset, that you're experience rich looking for a new job. And it was a great panel discussion, but you know, thankfully I knew you, I was connected with you when I said, I want to pull this together. Who else do you know? You pulled in resources, right? And if I was of the scarcity mentality, there's only enough work for me. I don't want to share my resources or my network with Kevin, or Kenneth rather, I would not have had that opportunity to have that great panel discussion.
Well, I want to be respectful of your time today and end the conversation on a really positive note. And thank you very much, Brenda, for being part of this LinkedIn Live. And I hope everyone here had a good time, enjoyed themselves, and have a great day. Stay in touch. You'll see us all around. So once again, thanks a lot, everyone. See you soon. Have a great day. Bye.
And then you got to click on end broadcast.
I did.